Hey, Phil here. I recorded a three-part series with a colleague on how to train, hire, and manage virtual workers. This is part one, and this is intended for agency owners, business owners, anybody who feels like they're the productivity bottleneck in their in their own business, right? I noticed that I was a productivity bottleneck and things were going unfinished. And then I found a way to offload and get help with some of the things that were slowing me down. So, with that in mind, I want you to check this out. Please reach out with any questions and yeah, enjoy. We are watching how to how to hire, train, and manage your virtual assistants to scale your business. Um, my goal is that everybody watching this will take away either some tools, some tips, or some strategies on how to hire, train, and manage a virtual assistant to scale your business. Really quick, I want to set this up for anybody who may not know what a virtual assistant is. A virtual assistant is not a robot, despite the virtual name. Many people get confused, but we're talking about a flesh and blood living human being who's able to help you through the power of the internet. We're going to go through the hiring process, the training process, and I want to show you how I manage. And I'm going to show you examples of documents. I'm going to show you examples in some of the documents that I use to get this going. So let's get started. First off, since we're going to be treating our and webinar attendees, as I mentioned, feel free to stop me at any time and just say, hey, I have a question. But I cannot give this book a recommendation enough. This allows you to treat your small business really like a small business. And because we are freelancers or we're solopreneurs, quite often we fail to realize that we need to treat our business like a small business. Anyways, this book just says basically systems will win. The model will be operated by people with the lowest possible skill level. That's not to say we want no skill workers. Often VA work is high school equivalent, but frankly, with training, we can get someone with a high school education or equivalent to get started. For today's talk, I will be helping you hire, train, and manage a generalist VA, but these methods have helped me hire specialists in smaller projects, so don't feel like you're not in the right place because you can definitely use these principles to hire specialist virtual assistants, right? Let's get into tools. Tools are a big part of what I use to make sure I'm accountable and my VA is accountable. So let me run through these tools. And Jacob, Katrina, if you have any questions on any of these, let me know. But Paymo is a very simple time tracking tool that runs in your browser. It's not expensive and it's easy to add new seats to this, and that's why I like it. Google Drive, as you're familiar, is a great way to share documents. I provide a G Suite email for VA access to Trello and WorkDocs. That way it's housed all in one account. And if I need to make changes as far as personnel, I uninvite and reinvite people to that same G Suite by changing the password. Loom is great for making short training videos, and Loom also allows you to produce a link for every training video. In my opinion, Trello is popular, but I think it's quite honestly the easiest way to manage productivity, and I'll show you how that works. I love PayPal just because it's fast, secure, and worldwide, and pretty much everybody has it. Google Hangouts is a great way to meet with your VA, or you can use Zoom if you're fancy. And then Slack is a free messaging platform. Any questions on those guys? I feel like that's stuff we've seen before, or you've seen similar products in the past. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Yeah. No problem. I'll make this list available to you later down the road. So, why would anybody hire a virtual assistant, right? There's a degree of delegation that's enabled with virtual assistants, right? You're able to delegate and scale. So, maybe you've identified productivity roadblocks, and with systems in place, it allows you to hand off work. But I'm going to help you with this hiring component. Before we get into the hiring component, these are some of the things that I have trained and had VA help on. Content posting from Google Drive, citation building for local. They actually helped. I got help with this presentation on this as they built out the formatting, SEO content, competitor research, anything like that in the research gathering space. I've had a VA help. Spreadsheet editing, formatting, stock image sourcing, site editing, SEO site auditing, photo editing, and sales prospecting. Those are some of the things that I've had my VA help on, and by the end of this, I think you can find ways to get some of these or some things that I've missed. Awesome. Oh my goodness, going quick. All right. Part 1. This is the hiring roadmap. This is just kind of the brief overview of hiring. Any questions before we get into hiring as we transition into this part?
No, I think we're all good. Everything's pretty familiar right now.
Cool. Sounds good. So what I say with the hiring roadmap, let's find the sources that we can use to hire, gather some tools. I'm going to help you write an amazing job ad / job description, and then I'll help you with the hiring and onboarding process. So this is where I found success. I guess it should be noted, this is not the definitive way to hire VAs. This is just the way that has worked for me, and I want to share with everybody online. But this is where I've found success. I've found success where in Facebook groups where specialists of any particular type may hang out. In my instance, it was an SEO specialist. I found by Upwork, by searching for job skill, and you can create a short list very quickly. Onlinejobs.ph is my favorite so far. That is a paid, but I feel like their profiling is quite good and a little bit, it's probably more comparable to Upwork as far as job profiles. So those are where I hire. Now I want to help you create an amazing job description and a help wanted ad. Basically, I consider this a help wanted ad, right? So in the description component, and I'll show you an example of this help wanted ad, I have a description and I lay out all the job necessities. I lay out the deliverables and tell them specifically what I want, in what format, and how it is to be delivered. And then just be clear on hours paid and anticipated. From there, I'll write all of this down in a text format and make a Loom video of me walking through it and post it. And I found my best job posting ad. I'll show you the posting itself though, so we can walk through it. The video is basically me talking through this stuff, right? This was, yeah, it's been about a year. So, all right. I put, and I'll get you an example of this because I have this in text. But I'm basically listing out all the weekly things that I wanted, and then all the things that would include the sometimes, like special cases, right? And things that the best VA will do, right? And then I put this all together in a video of me walking through it. Nothing too crazy, but I wanted to share with you. Okay, this is specialist one. I've actually included 3 of these. So in each of my videos, when I'm asking for a specialist, I actually put a hidden message at the end of my video, right? Because I feel like everyone's familiar with writing a job ad. Everyone's familiar with writing a job description, but not everyone's familiar with sort of vetting out people who are not detail oriented. So at the end of my silly video here, I put a photo of a purple hippo, right? And I got this idea from Van Halen. Van Halen is an old rock and roll group, and they said to the management team, they wanted to check if the management team was super dedicated, because Van Halen would be on stage and they would be dealing with pyrotechnics and crazy flying props, and they didn't want anyone to get incinerated or injured. And they wanted to know that if the venue or the organizer was detail oriented. And inside their contract, they said, I want a dish of M&Ms that have all the brown M&Ms removed. And that may sound like a very pain in the butt kind of way of saying, I want to be treated special, but really you're trying to make sure that the people you're working with are detail oriented. On the end of the video that I just said, I put a photo of a purple hippo, and I had said, "Dear listener, you have gotten to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I'm sharing a secret code with you. My secret code is purple hippo. And if you are detailed oriented and you've waited to the end of this video and you've seen me talk about this project for 5.5 minutes, and you say purple hippo to me in our first interaction, I will know that you're a detailed oriented VA." So basically, guys, that's me saying, is the listener a detailed oriented person who reads the documentation to the fullest? Because keep in mind, we're trying to get somebody with kind of the least skill possible, or find somebody at the least skill level possible to do this job so we could bring them up and train them. But I think one of the core components is that they have to be willing to sit through the documentation, willing to listen, and willing to take notes. So I found this a great effect, and this is how I used to weed out would-be hires. So does anyone have any questions on the secret code? Does everyone kind of understand what I'm getting at with this secret code?
Yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
It is funny. So I've had VAs reach out to me after the fact and realize that they failed to tell me purple hippo, and they'll watch it a second time, right? And 6 months later on LinkedIn, I've gotten purple hippo yelled at me via email or LinkedIn. So basically, team, I'm going to send you examples in this PowerPoint that I'll share with you of the various Loom videos and the various job wanted ads for you to emulate. The first one is a generalist SEO. The second one is a PDF/visual editor, right? Which I think is a little more specialized. And this one is another specialist role who works in MailerLite. So it's not just generalist stuff, but I still think that this secret code is quite helpful regardless of if you're hiring for a generalist or a specialist. So let's talk about rock stars, right? My 2 cents is you're going to find very impressive profiles of people who have all the skills that you need for a higher rate than what you're willing to pay, and you're quite often going to be very tempted to scoop them up. And I'm not going to dissuade you from picking up a rock star, but I will let you know that in my experience, I've been working with my VA for about 1.5 years, and at the same time I was using 2 different VAs, and I hired a rock star versus my current VA who has a good attitude. She shows up and she's willing to work. And that has gone so much further than somebody who had all the skills that I needed at the onset. So there is something to be said about sort of rock stars who have everything that you might need at a command at a higher rate, but quite often they're more difficult to get a hold of, or whatever their deal might be, versus somebody who shows up and says, "Hey, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to put in the time." So that's my 2 cents on that, team. That's just my personal experience. All right, so let's say that you've found somebody and they've shared the secret code and you're willing to get started. Here's how I do my onboarding. We mentioned a G Suite email with all the access provided. So in your instance, it would be, something like either, for me, it's content@mydomain.com, right? That's my content VA's email, but you create an email like that. And I provide a document that's called a position contract. That's basically the list that I sent via job description ad. And it basically says, hey, these are the things you're going to be responsible for. Do you have any questions? It gives them a last chance to say, hey, I'm not too familiar with this, and it's better to have those conversations before work starts, right? And I give them a 1 week's pay. I put them on for a demo week. I pay them via PayPal at that first day, so they're motivated to get started. I don't pay at the end of the week because I'm just out 1 week's worth of pay. It's not the end of the world, and this person gets to get started. And then the other thing is, I set the expectation that weekly meetings are to hang or in Google Hangouts and Zoom. You don't have to do it that way, but I highly recommend that you speak with your VAs on a regular interval. From that book, E-Myth, right? And this is nothing really crazy, but it's just another, like I said, just lay out all the responsibilities and make sure everyone understands what those are. That's about it, though. It's just more clarification because I like operating with clarity